Have you ever found yourself lying in bed at 2 a.m. with your mind racing with questions like, God, are you even there? Or what if everything I believe my whole life is a lie? If that's you, let me tell you something. You are not broken, you're not a failure, and you're definitely not alone. Doubt isn't the enemy to faith. It's often the doorway to a much stronger faith. What if I told you questioning God isn't a sign of weak faith, but a chance to strengthen it? Today, I want to look at those questions, wrestle with the hard stuff, and discuss how doubts can actually draw us closer to God. Let's be real, we all have questions. Whether it's, why does God allow bad things to happen? Or, how do I know that Jesus is really God? These questions can feel quite heavy, can't they? But let me tell you something really quick. Doubt is not a sin. It's not a sin to have questions. Look at the disciples in Matthew 28 verse 17. Jesus is about to give them the Great Commission, the biggest mission of their lives. And it says when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Think about that for a second. These are the same people who walked with him, saw him heal the sick, raise the dead, literally come back to life. And they still had questions. But here's the thing, Jesus didn't kick him out of the team. He didn't say, well, since you guys doubted, I'm going to go find someone else. No, he gave them a purpose anyway. Why? Because Jesus can handle your doubt. He's not intimidated by it. But here's the key. Don't let your doubt define your faith. Wrestle with it, absolutely, but don't stay stuck in that place of doubt. One of the beautiful things about God is that he doesn't reject us for asking hard questions. Like Thomas, for example. Everyone calls him Doubting Thomas, like it's some kind of insult. But I actually quite like him, because he was honest. Like in John 20, Thomas says, unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. And that's real talk. He wasn't pretending to be okay when he wasn't. And what did Jesus do? He showed up. He said, "You're Thomas, see my hands, touch my side, stop doubting, and believe." Jesus didn't shame him. He didn't say, "How dare you question me?" He invited Thomas to come closer, to see him for who he really is. So if you're doubting, take it to Jesus. Don't run from him, run to him. Pray honestly, tell him what's on your heart. He already knows, so you might as well keep it real with him. And don't be afraid to say, "God, help me believe," because that's a prayer that he loves to answer. Now, one of the biggest traps with doubt is getting stuck in your feelings. I don't feel God right now, so maybe he's not real. But let me tell you something, feelings are real. They're not always reliable. If I based my faith solely on how I feel, I'd be in big trouble. Because lots of days I don't feel holy. I don't feel like praying, and I definitely don't feel like reading my Bible. But faith isn't about feelings, it's about truth. When I've wrestled with the question of, is Jesus really God? I had to dig into scripture. I couldn't just rely on what I'd been told in church. I had to read John 1:1 for myself. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now the Greek word John used to describe Jesus is logos, which literally means everything. Then a few verses later it says, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. That blew my mind. Jesus isn't just some nice guy, a good moral figure, or a wise teacher. He's God, who stepped into our world to save us. So when you doubt, ask yourself, am I looking for truth? Or am I just listening to my emotions? Get into the Word, read it, study it, wrestle with it. You'll be surprised how much clarity God can give you when you come to him with an open heart. Now the one thing about doubt is that it thrives in isolation. When we're on our own, it grows when we keep it in the dark. And that's why it's so important to bring your questions to people who can help. Talk to a friend, a mentor, your pastor, someone who knows God and knows his word. Just look at the man in Mark 9. His son was possessed by an evil spirit, and he said to Jesus, "If you can do anything, help us." Jesus was like, "If I can. Everything is possible for the one who believes." And the man said, "I believe. Help my unbelief." That's such a raw, honest moment. He didn't hide his doubt. He brought it to Jesus, and Jesus responded with compassion. He didn't leave that man to figure out by himself. And God's not asking you to figure out by yourself either. He's not asking you to go through your doubt alone. I get it. We want all the answers right now. And sometimes faith doesn't work like that. In last week's video, we took a look at Peter walking on the water with Jesus. He steps out with a boat, and for a moment, his eyes are fixed on Jesus, and he's walking on the water with him. Then he sees the wind and the waves and the clouds and the storm, and he starts to sink. But Jesus doesn't let him drown. He reaches out, grabs him, and says, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" But here's what I love about that story. Peter doubted, but he also stepped out in faith. He walked on water, even if it was just for a little while. He walked on water because of his faith. Now, faith isn't about never doubting. It's about trusting God when we do, trusting Him to take a step out of the boat anyway. And when you sink, He's right there to catch you. He will not let you drown. And that's the kind of God we serve. One who lifts us up, keeps us from drowning, and never lets us go. Doubt doesn't mean you're losing your faith. It means you're wrestling with it. And wrestling is how you grow. If you're questioning right now, don't run away from God. Run to Him with your doubts. Ask your questions, search the scriptures, talk to your community. And please remember this, that God is not afraid of your doubts. He's not up in heaven sitting on His throne thinking, "Oh no, they're asking tough questions." No. He's patient, he's kind, and He's ready to meet you where you're at, even in your uncertainty. If this spoke to you, drop me a message and let me know. What's a question that you've been wrestling with recently? And if you want to keep exploring these types of questions, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next week.